My bad.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Amish Matchmakers. Yeah, I love you
Okay. Why do you have it this way
because
now?
it's better that way.
You're
For
throwing me off.
I know it's better that way. Since there's not two of us, we don't need it silence. I love you.
Okay. I love you. Well, we're live and Carlos is off and running. So you got me today.
You're blessed.
Good morning. Um, how's it going? Okay, I'm gonna give a couple of seconds, see if anyone wants to hop on. The fire going and it is getting hot. Getting hot for sure. Can you see it? There we go. Um, so welcome. We are the Amish Matchmakers. We help to help singles to find incredible godly marriages and create an epic marriage and develop legacies rooted in faith and freedom. Um, so I'm so glad you joined us today. Normally, this is our time for Carlos and I, uh, couples edition, right? But sometimes we have to divide and conquer. Sometimes we have to handle things time wise. And so you've got me today. And so my understanding is that Carlos talked about MVP this morning with the men. And so um, I am going to kind of piggyback on that and slightly change it a little bit. So, you know, MVP is most known, for most people, known as the most valuable player, right? It's a term used in team sports, and but we have kind of coined it as, a training that we use called MVP, which is defined by your mission, your vision, and your peculiar. Now, peculiar is a strange word, I know. Um, that's it. That's it in a nutshell, right? What is your peculiar? So when we're working with people on their identity, um, we utilize the MVP um, as a, like, people talk about like vision boards and those kind of things. Like, what do you want? We create what you want, right? That's one of our key phrases that we use. I create what I want. And sometimes we don't realize that we can create what we want. We feel like we're, just a victim to circumstance, or because of my economical status, I'm limited, or maybe it's a physical ailment, or whatever. So when we're working through your identity and strengthening who you are as a person, these are the things that we're really working towards. We're really wanting to, you know, develop that confidence in just who you are, who you were born to be. What is your purpose here on this planet, right? Like, there's so often people are like, I just don't know what my purpose is. Like, that's when, you're in a dead end job, or, you feel like you're just in a rat race, you're spinning your wheels, and you're not feeling fulfilled in any way, shape, or form. Well, you're probably not identifying, your MVP. So we talk about your mission, right? Your mission being like, who do you feel like God called you to be here on earth to other people? What does your presence bring to others? What is, and what fires you up inside? For the longest time, um, I've always had this therapeutic mode inside of me, right? And part of that comes from my mom, for sure, because my mom was a hypnotherapist, but part of that is just, you know who I am. It's who, as a young girl at an early age, um Well, so junior high, I'm gonna go back to junior high, right? So in junior high, um, I went to a very rough middle school. So it was called Grant Middle School in Escondido, California. Just in the kind of ghetto of Escondido. The population around it was run by three Mexican gangs. Um, and so it was a tough school to go to, especially for a little white girl, right? Um, so there was from jump, like from sixth grade, when we started middle school, it was kind of survival of the fittest, right? I had, the first experience that I had was in a bathroom, and this girl came in and tried to jump me in the bathroom. So immediately self defense kicked in, and I've got to respond physically, right? So that was the first fight I got in. And there was a couple of other ones. So I developed a hard shell, if you will, a survival, right? A protection. That's innately what we as humans do. We go into survival mode. So I became a little bit of a bully. Not necessarily intentionally, but because I felt like I had to be tough in that season. So there was a number of times when these groups of girls, or like so they would have to pick somebody to pick a fight with to get jumped into their gang. And so there was a couple of those, and I was pretty tough, so I always managed to come out pretty well on the fight end of it. I had a sister that was pretty tough with me growing up, and my brother wrestled, so I was always pretty strong in that sense. But I did once, I think in seventh grade, there was a big fight, and the girl ended up with a full bruise on her face, and it was one of those things, like they always use the excuse of like, hey, I heard you've been talking shit, and it's like the classic line, and then of course you'd have to respond. So I'm really big on self-defense for that reason, right? But the other thing is that we talked about the whole therapeutic mode. um, so when uh, this was junior high. So after getting into fights like that, right? Then um, what happened was the administration um, kind of found out that people were wanting me to jump in on these fights because I held my own. But subsequently, what happened is I then became a mediator for the school. So my seventh, eighth grade year, I became a peer mediator. So if I heard that there was turmoil amongst the students, then I would be called into the office and I would be there to mediate the students who were potentially going to fight. So early on, I became sort of, I took that role of that therapeutic vibe. So, anyways, I say that to say, when we're talking about your mission and your vision, I always have had a passion for what is the underlying cause of behavior, right? So then, fast forward to when I started work with the children at the home for abused and neglected children, the children's shelter. Um, it continued, and I felt like I was fulfilling my mission in that. Especially with the teenagers. Now, I quickly wanted to move up to a higher supervisor, so I had to do a season supervising, the younger kids as well. But I was still fulfilling a mission, and it was a really powerful experience um, to feel that, especially at 20, 21 years old. Not everybody gets the opportunity to do that. So often we just we're living our life, we get a job and we go to another job or something like that. So that's kind of where we feel like we're floating in our purpose, so if you will. But the truth is that when we feel like we're living our purpose, when we that thing that fires us up, so often it's like where people then volunteer for organizations that light a fire inside them, right? There's something that you find yourself passionate in. Maybe you have a relative who is deaf, and so you end up signing with them, and then you have people who are passionate about interpretation, and so they end up you know being an advocate for the deaf population. I mean, it's so, those are just examples, right? But whatever it is, maybe, your grandfather taught you how to weld, and it was a place where, you were just found yourself just, feeling valuable, feeling like you were gaining a skill, and then you wanted to design and make cool things, right? So we're talking about your mission here on earth, whether it has to do with how you give to other people, how you serve other people, or what your creativity develops, and what maybe you're an innovator, maybe you're um, a scientist, maybe you get passionate about something like that. So identifying your mission is the first step, okay? And then your vision, the V in MVP, is the how. What is the mode of operation? What is the how? So for me, the how initially started at the children's shelter. It was the place where I was able to learn and develop a skill of working with the population. It was a place where I had hands-on experience. I was able to, be in the trenches with these kids. I was there, you know, oftentimes we were um, their first experience in the system, right? Where they were pulled from their home, and initially they went to us. Sometimes they went to another facility first and then came to us. But those are trench type of environments where you get hands-on experience, where there's you experience everything from trauma bonding to lashing out, self-harm, all of those different trauma responses happen in those moments, right? So the vision for me was, okay, if at that point I didn't have a bigger vision. I did not know how God was going to use me in this realm to help people find healing through their trauma, and experience freedom, in their mind, in their body, in their spirit, right? But I knew that that's what my calling was. So from the children's shelter, I spent 11 years there. And then beyond that, I had taken a season of you know taking care of my own kids instead of everyone else's, right? And so, but here I am. We are the Amish Matchmakers. We mentor people. We help them in business. We help them in their families. We help them, the singles to get married, and to have epic marriages. But what that looks like really starts with your identity. That identity of, who am I? Oh, I'm just, I think God's called me to be single, or you know, we have all of the excuses in the world. It's no different than somebody um, in the system, the children's system, the foster care system, who uses their experience as an excuse for them to succeed. Listen, we all have things in life that prevent us from moving forward, that prevent us from taking a step towards who we're called to be, whether it's the fear, the doubt. We talked about that yesterday. And sorry, without Carlos here, I need to take a break. But with with understanding, that all of these things are across the board, right? What our excuses are for whatever it is that we want, but we're choosing not to create, it all stems back to what is controlling us, right? And so when we understand our MVP, it gives us a clearer picture of, um, what I don't want to control me. Like if I'm going to get to a place where I am fulfilling my mission, um, then I have to release some things. I have to release the trauma. I have to release the things that that are holding me back. The belief systems, right? The belief systems that keep me spinning my wheels. We call them agreements, right? So you experience something. Um, you experience something in your childhood, and you then create a belief around it. And that belief then causes you to not make decisions as you grow up, causes you to shrink back, hold back from, who you are and what you're meant to create. So, those are important factors. Those are important factors when we look at, moving forward and creating your MVP. So, mission, vision, and then peculiar. Your peculiar is what is strange about you. Who are you? Like, what makes you so unique? Do you have, like, for me, people, talk about how, like, I have this, like, insane amount of patience or I bring peace to people, right? Well, that's an important factor when I'm working somebody through their trauma. So, what is unique about you? Maybe you are really attention to detail. You're great with numbers. Those are the accountants. Those are the people who can work numbers and create a solution and all of those things. That is not my skill set. I like to say a good dear friend of mine, Linda Potgieter, always taught me I have other gifts and talents. And that is what I say. Anytime numbers get thrown around, I'm not a numbers girl. I'm a connection girl. I'm a relationship girl. I'm a communication girl. That is where my peculiar is the ability to communicate and connect relationally with someone in and out of their trauma. Okay. So my peculiar looks different than yours. Each and every one of us has something different about us that God created. And a lot of times, it could be something that you maybe are made fun of for when you're little, or, maybe your family members criticized you a whole bunch or teased you. Um, Sometimes it is, you know, if you get really upset about behaviors that people have or don't have, and you're like, man, if everybody on the planet would just do this, life would be so much easier, or the company would run so much smoother, or the classroom would be so much funner, right? Uh, Whatever that is your peculiar. That specific thing that is like, I wish everyone else would do it this way. Um, and for me, it's also represents action. I have I have immense patience, and I also have a very low tolerance for people who don't take action. Like, let's move. Let's take that step forward. You've got to move. So, as far as my peculiar, uh, activation is a big part of who I am. I have an innate a way of activating people towards, whatever it is, whether it's the healing, the freedom, the goals. So that is my peculiar. So when we put the MVP together, it really is powerful to um, know and understand our identity, and you know, having that framework, if you will, having that framework available to you really helps you to align with with those in your community, with people you're getting to know. So, being the Amish matchmakers, this is one of the key tools that helps us to identify who is a match. Who is a match for you? Really, it's really important to, understand that people talk about, being unequally yoked, or, oh, opposites attract and all of these different things. Well, that may very well be true. Like Carlos and I are very opposite in uh, who we are, right? Personality wise, complete opposite. He's a verbal processor. I'm an internal processor. He's very, boisterous, loud, those kind of things. And I am not, per se. I have increased my skill set in those capacities. But the reality is that what the most powerful thing that brought us together and created the deep connection that we have was our alignment of the MVP. So when we talk about your mission and your vision and your peculiar and then dealing with another person, it is truly that when we feel that alignment, we can take on the world, right? We can handle the quirky differences that we have, the opposite things that we have, because that heart connection of our mission and our vision is in alignment. So, for Carlos and I early on, it was very much so our heart for people and seeing people transformed, freedom from religious bondage, freedom from, trauma, all of those different things, our hearts aligned in, even though I wasn't necessarily physically attracted to him, even though we, came from two different worlds, like it didn't matter because that heart alignment and that passion for I worked with orphans. He had a passion for widows, like and just loving on people, seeing people thrive, making sure that they felt loved, honored, and so that heart alignment was super important. Um, so that is what we found to be really a cornerstone of how we help people to find an amazing spouse. We have processes that get you to there. There's practical applications in how we're communicating to discover what your MVP is. Questions we ask that go deeper. So that's one of the funnest parts about when we start to work with people and get to see them exercising these muscles of communication, not just surface level, not just your typical dating app environment where everything kind of feels surfacey and or what's the word I'm looking for, sleazy, almost like cheap, like it doesn't feel genuine, right? So the process that we walk people through is really powerful in creating that genuine connection, that genuine place where, again, we discover your mission and your vision and what makes you unique and does it align with mine. And sometimes it's 3, 4, or 5 conversations before somebody gets to whether they're aligned or not. And sometimes it's just building beautiful friendships. We can say, oh wow, that's really cool, that mission, your MVP is really awesome. I the world needs more of you, right? And we can love and respect and honor it, but it doesn't necessarily align with mine. It's not something that is going to help me get to the place of fulfillment in my mission and my vision, my purpose, if you will, right? So having said that, I want to tell you, yesterday we talked about, we showed you a little bit of our process, our Epic 30 process, right? And so today, my word was pretty cool. I like this topic because, women constantly are asking me about, this whole thing of like our value and do we submit to a husband? And so I'm going to kind of do a deep dive because this was my word this morning. The word was Genesis 2:18. And if you know us, if you haven't gotten to know us, we definitely follow things in the word, but we don't take it for at surface level. We don't just, receive something from the pulpit as it's translated and like whatever that feeling we go on. We break it down. We break it down back to the original writing, the Hebrew, uh, and context. Right, context matters so much. So Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." Such a fun topic for, men and women alike. And there's so many different variations of what that interpretation is like and how religion has used it, right, in our lives. So, um, we're going to break it down word by word. It is not good. Uh, in the Hebrew is lo tov. This is huge, right? So up until this point, God had said everything is good. Everything that he created in creation, everything was good. Light, land, animals, work, purpose, right? So this is the first time in the beginning that God said something is not good. But notice it's not moral failure, it's not weakness, it's not incompetence, it's incompleteness of design. Okay? God is saying something essential is missing for this assignment. For the man to be alone, right? Levado. This doesn't just mean single, it means isolated. So we're going back to the Hebrew, okay? Remember. Um, So it means isolated, separate, carrying responsibility alone, without shared strength, without relational counterpart. So, really, what God's saying here with that word, lavado in Hebrew, he's saying this is about function, not romance. Adam had purpose, authority, work, and intimacy with God. Okay, so he had those things, but he did not have someone who he could stand face to face with him in the assignment. So, forgive me, I don't speak Hebrew, but the word I will make, eseh, God himself initiates this, the intentional design, not the afterthought. The woman is not a solution Adam asked for, she is a solution God designed. Okay. So for you women out there, I want you to hear this. God designed you, right? God designed you. So, number 4, a helper, ezer. This word had been badly misunderstood. Ezer does not mean assistant, it does not mean servant or subordinate. In fact, it is most often used to describe God himself in scripture. Ezer. It means strong rescuer, one who supplies what is lacking, one who comes to the aid of another. Okay. Um, in Psalm, there's an example that says, "The Lord is my eser." I could be totally saying it wrong. So, um, my help comes from the Lord. So, calling woman as an eser is calling her strength, not support staff. Okay. So, women, hear me, men alike. Then number 5, suitable for him, kenagdo. Okay. Now, this is where it gets really good, especially for all of you who get triggered by the word, we're just less than men, or, we're just a helpmate. Okay. I hear that all the time, and there's such a icky connotation to it, and it really does feel, especially because if you've come from any kind of controlled religion background, you felt it, right? You've felt it. So suitable for him, okay? In the Hebrew, kenegdo. This is a mic drop. Kenegdo means corresponding to, equal to, facing, right? We talked about facing, opposite yet aligned, going back to our mission and vision, right? Matching strength, one who stands across from, eye to eye. Okay. Literally, this means a strength equal to him. A strength equal to him. That is the Hebrew definition. Not behind him, not beneath him, not quietly assisting him, standing with him. God's design, not man's, not Adam's, God's design. Okay? Are y'all catching this? It's freaking big. So, what Genesis 2:18 really is saying is it is not good for the man to carry the assignment alone. I will make him a strong counterpart, a rescuer, equal in strength, who stands face to face with him. Y'all hearing me? What does this teach us? Okay. Whew. What does this teach us? It teaches us that marriage was designed as a team, not a hierarchy. Okay. We talk about being a team. We talk about, that is, oh gosh, it's one of my favorite words to talk about marriage because, and if you do not understand team sports, I want to encourage you to study team sports, to study skill sets that it requires for different positions amongst the team, right? Different positions hold their value regardless of how different that position is played from another position. It holds their value, okay? And that is what we need to understand in marriage. We have value in our role, our skill, our unique qualities, what we bring to the table. It is God designed. It's not one is more important than the other. It is we are equal. Woman was created to strengthen the mission, not to shrink herself, to strengthen the mission of man, of man. Man in the term of used as human, okay? The woman was created to strengthen the mission because man alone was not good, meaning he was not complete. He doesn't have everything it is required to fulfill the mission. I mean, good God, hello. A man can't procreate, right? Yes, he can plant the seed, but he needs he needs a woman to fulfill the mission of go forth and multiply, right? So I'm gonna track this back again. Marriage was designed as a team, not a hierarchy. Woman was created to strengthen the mission, not to shrink herself. Man was never meant to carry the leadership, responsibility, or provision alone. Okay? Now, we've got centuries of role playing that has taught us so many different things, right? So many different things. But again, we're in Genesis. We're in the beginning. We're here where we're looking at God's design. for man and woman. Now, over the centuries, we've definitely moved through, places where the men create the provision, so to speak. But where does that come from? Because it wasn't in the original design. Okay. And we see that in Proverbs 31. Okay. That might be a good deep dive for another time. That's a good idea. I might do that tomorrow because it really does fall in line with your mission, your vision, and your peculiar. But so the true partnership requires mutual power, shared discernment, and relational unity. So, but I want to go back to that. So in the beginning, right, man and woman were both hunter gatherers, right? They had to, cultivate the land. They had to work the soil. They had to have dominion over the animals. All of these different things, they did them together while raising families. Okay. The unit was a team. It wasn't dad's out here making the money, wife is barefoot and pregnant, just taking care of the children. They were a team effort in all of the things that they were doing. Yes, there was seasons where, men went off to war, and what did the women do? Did they just not uh, provide for themselves? That doesn't make any sense. So we've gotten things so twisted. The scales have just been flip-flopped, all this stuff, between the hierarchy of the man and the submission of the woman to the women's empowerment movement and the squashing of the men and their strength and their design, right? I mean, we've just, to be honest with you, we've screwed it all up. The design was a team. So this is not about dependency. It's about interdependence by design. It's knowing your value as an individual and what you bring to the mission. Okay. In simple terms, God didn't create woman because man was lonely. God created woman because the assignment required two powerful, aligned humans to carry it. Two powerful, aligned humans to carry it. Your MVP. What is your mission? What is your vision? And who will carry out your mission alongside you? Eye to eye, toe to toe, together as a powerful team. That's when we discover the one. You understand how when we talk about the one, like there's a lot of people on this planet who can have a similar mission and vision to you. So it's really a matter of getting to know people well enough, digging in, asking the right questions, and having a heart posture of, this is my design. I understand who I am, who God created me to be. Now, as I'm getting to know him or her, has God aligned this person with my mission? Can we complete this mission on this planet in our lifetime together, toe to toe and eye to eye? That's when you find alignment. That's when you know that regardless of how long you've been dating or how long you've been engaged, or whether so and so, your so and so's family approves of you or not, none of that matters. It's a matter of your mission and your vision, and are they aligned, and what peculiar are you bringing to the table that makes you unique, that is your specific role in this team together. So I thought it was a pretty cool word to kind of break down Genesis 2:8, because I get a lot of questions, especially from women, that have been, especially, in the Amish background, right? Like there's definitely a lesser feel of value for a woman culturally. And the truth is that's not where that's not where freedom lies. Freedom lies in knowing who you are and the value that you bring to the table. You know, I'm excited. I'm totally going to deep dive tomorrow morning on Proverbs 31 because I feel like it falls, totally in line with who we are and our design and how in marriage we can come together and fulfill the assignment. So, on that note, I'm going to hop off. Join me tomorrow. And also, I would deeply appreciate if you guys like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, just so that you can, number one, help us get the message out. There's a lot of there's a lot of people out there who are stuck, who are floundering in a world of really not knowing who they are or what their purpose is, not believing in themselves because of whatever their history is like. We have a heart and we have a passion. It is our mission to change that. It is our mission to, restore how marriage was designed. It is our mission and our passion to create families that are safe for communication, that learn the skills to communicate, and that become thriving individuals that, create legacy for generations to come that is healthy legacy. Okay. We, gosh, across the board, there's so many families that have broken down generationally and just completely disconnected. So we want to restore that connection with the Father, that connection with your best self, your true identity, and then that connection with your spouse and your children for generations to come. That is our passion. And so if you like what you're hearing, if you enjoy these talks in the morning, whether it's Carlos and I, whether it's Carlos by himself or the men, or whether it's just me, please, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and so we can continue to get the message out. It is fun. It is powerful when we get to to see freedom in action, and people really understanding what they believe and why, and just having that powerful connection with the Father. So I appreciate you. Uh, Also wanted to throw a shout out to Jesse and Indiana Kaufman. They are doing a free webinar on Sunday evening at 5 p.m. on their school platform, skool.com/single2married. Carlos and I will be guest speaking, and we're going to talk about how, just how we get people to a place of being engaged within 12 weeks. Some think it's radical, but it's proven over and over. Jesse's a great example of that. And so we're going to talk about that. So if you're interested in that, join that school group. We'd love to see you there. We're super excited. It's a growing community and just thriving. People really discovering the skills that it takes to, put your excuses aside and move towards an epic marriage. It's possible. So thank you for joining us, or me today. And I look forward to talking about the Proverbs 31 woman tomorrow. I don't know what Carlos is going to talk about, but I'm gonna do a little deep dive. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.